Hi guys, it's Missy from the Book Rat, and today I thought you could join me for lunch while I talk about a book that I read a while ago that I've just been meaning to review, and that book is Risen by Gibsen. I've talked a little bit about it, but like it needs its own review. So go ahead, grab a snack or some lunch and join me for today's lunch chat review. I'm having avocado toast with an egg. This is nothing new to the lunch chat, and it's possibly foolish because it definitely could just leak egg yolk all over me, so it's a risk, but you know. Level of danger. Add some excitement to the video. I also am going to try this elderflower lemonade that I spent too much on just because I needed it. How cute is that? Like, I'm definitely going to keep the bottle for a bud base when I'm done, which is mostly why I wanted to try it, but, you know, we'll see. But yeah, we're gonna go with elderflower lemonade because I am just that fucking fancy. Let's get that out of the way. That's delicious. Yum. So, Risen. The synopsis and links to this book will be in the description, so you can find out more about that all there. But essentially it's a vampire story. There's really not much more you need to know because it is a very straightforward vampire story. And I'm gonna avoid spoilers, even though I so want to give them, but I'm gonna avoid spoilers because I don't need them to tell you my very conflicted thoughts on this book. So, basically. I don't remember anybody's name. What the hell's the main character's name? Okay, the main character, Charlie, lives with her aunt Rachel in a cabin in the woods, away from everyone in the world. Like, she has no interaction with anyone, pretty much. Suddenly vampires come knocking at their door and she discovers their secrets. She doesn't know her aunt is taken, you know. It's all fairly straightforward and flawed, I have to say. I'm just gonna start off with that. It's got some flaws. And some major pet peeves. First off, and I don't think this is something people talk about enough, but it has way too much dialogue. Having a lot of dialogue makes something very fast-paced. You just fly through it. I mean, the line lengths obviously aren't as long typically, so that helps cut down on the length of the book, but also just the way you read dialogue, the way you interpret dialogue. It tends to not be as info-dumpy, it tends to be much snappier, so it helps you fly through. So it makes you feel like this book is the fastest-paced thing in the world and you're just flying through, which you are. But it's so unnatural. Like, nobody talks this much. Even people who talk a lot. I talk a lot. Nobody talks this much. And you don't talk about these things in the way that they talk about these things. Every bit of world building is put into the dialogue. Every bit of explanation is put into the dialogue. I don't know if it was to avoid being info-dumpy, or if she was trying to make it seem natural, like it wasn't something... You know, the narrator has a lot of questions, so how else is she going to find out about these things unless someone tells her? And so everything is crammed into these ridiculous convoluted conversations. And it just made the whole thing feel so strange and so unnatural. It felt very unnatural. Humans don't interact like this. I don't think vampires do either, for that matter. I really don't. I don't know, but it's a hunch. Oh no! Oh no! Well, it couldn't happen twice. I am definitely covered in egg yolk now. Oh. Well, it's a good thing you can't see my lap. The preponderance of dialogue and the things that were crammed into it leads me, I guess, to my biggest complaint about the story, and that is that it's very cheesy. And it's very cliched. So I can deal with some cheesiness, especially in a vampire story. But this is very over the top in its cheesiness. I think you would have to have an insanely high threshold for cheesiness or just personally love it to not be like a little eye rolling every now and then. It embraces like every cliche of the vampire story that it could possibly embrace. There are these absolutely ridiculous vampire factions that seem to be determined on which vampire faction you've been bitten by and who or what you eat, I think. But it's like there are 3 segments of vampire cliche. Like if you picture that like Becoming Man illustration where it's like you've got, you know, ape-like things in varying degrees until you get to like Homo erectus human. That's what the vampire factions are like. You've got the kind of clean-cut, normal, pass as human vampires all the way down to like these gray-skinned creeps that can like disappear into the shadows. And taking those themes, she has run with it and given them every cliche that you could that would fit that faction. So 2 of the factions are kind of normal, and then 1 is like super, super weird. But there's such a hard divide between them that it's just so cheesy. So like the gray-skinned weirdos are very like animalistic and hissing and mindless almost, kind of zombie-ish. And then you've got these very businessmen, like in suits, everybody wears a suit, very stuffy, kind of like caged power, dangerous ones. And then right in between, you've got the ones that are kind of human, they're very hippy-dippy, they live on a commune together, and it's like, so basically, do they only turn people that are like them, that will fit their mold, like fit their dress code? Or do you have no choice? Like, you're bitten by a hippy-dippy vampire and you have to become a hippy-dippy and start, like, burning patchouli all the time. Like, why are they so very narrowly defined? And if there are 3 of these factions, and they're all clustered around this, like, one area of the country, I think in, I don't know, Kansas or the Ozarks or something, are there vampires elsewhere? Are there more factions out there? Are these the only vampires in the world and this is what they've chosen to do with their time? Are the other if there are other factions, are the other factions also like hippy-dippy? What? Why? It's just, I just don't know. I just don't know. It's a level of cheesy cliche that clearly raises a lot of questions and a lot of eyebrows. Like the whole time I was just like, really? Again, some people will embrace that. Some people will love that and it will feel like a classic, or it will feel... Hey, what are you doing? You want my egg yolk? You just want some egg yolk? You can have some egg yolk. Yeah. Oh, come on, you're not getting it. You gotta work quicker. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I mean, as with most things, it's gonna come down to the type of reader you are, whether you are put off by it or find it too silly, too cheesy to kind of continue to deal with. Some people will love that, and some people will love the distinctions. To me, it just seemed pointless. Like, how would this possibly have come to be? You know? The other big thing about it, and it's kind of along those same lines, and is an example of an overall pattern, is everything is so easy. Any mysteries, any questions that the characters might have are answered so easily. They don't have to work at things. You never feel like they're in any real danger because something always happens. You know, they always kind of are able to save themselves or each other. Something comes swooping in, you know, there's always something that, though other people will be collateral damage around them, you don't ever really fear for the main characters. And also the fact that they all get along so well and bond so well, even in like cases of being mortal enemies, it's just, it's absurd. It doesn't, again, seem natural. It's just really hard to buy, I guess. Just, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe their relationships. I didn't believe that they changed their tune about each other so easily and for no apparent reason. It's ridiculous how they find each other. It's ridiculous how everything dovetails together and how everyone just happens to be exactly who's needed to be, you know, like they just fit into these little molds that were just waiting. There was a hole and suddenly they come along and they were exactly what was needed to fill that hole, and it's a miracle, but it's like there's too many of those going on, you know? You just can't believe it at a certain point. Willing suspension of disbelief doesn't even begin to cover what you would need to go with it and to buy into everything that happens in the entire story. All of it. And because it never really feels like there's a ton of danger to the main characters, it's hard to invest yourself, because why care, why feel the tension when the tension's going to be broken? Or why invest yourself in the mystery when you know it's going to be answered in someone's ridiculous patch of dialogue in a few pages? There are continuity things too that seem bizarre, and just like, if you have a vampire king, I think he is, who has a stake like lodged in him grazing his heart, and if it were to move just a millimeter, it would kill him. Why would you have him being carried around on, like, what's the chair with the sticks that the guys carry? I can't think of the word, but that thing, you know? Like, why would you have your vampire cronies carrying him back and forth into, like, the main house and his house so that he can, like, make his proclamations instead of everyone coming to him? Because, like, literally, you're gonna jostle him. You, like, stub your toe on a rock and you're gonna... and he's dead. You've killed your king. So why would you take that risk? It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of stupid little things like that I'm just like, but why though? Why though? But all of that said, I read the whole damn thing. The whole time I was reading, I was like, why am I still reading this? Why am I still reading this? Why am I still reading this? And yet I couldn't not. Partly it was because it was so quick, and partly it was because I just needed to see how deep the rabbit hole went. And I wanted to see how it turns out, and, you know, does it come around? Does it give me any big shockers or anything like that? I have no idea if it is the first part to a series. I would think so, but I also think it might be a standalone. Like, it feels like there should be more, but I kind of don't think there is. I'm not entirely sure. But it's one of those things where it's like, really bad junk food, I guess. Like, it's horrible. You're eating it and you're like, this is gross. This is horrible. Why am I still eating it? You know, like, it's just, it's not great. And yet, you still read the whole thing in like 2 sittings, you know? I don't want you to feel like I've just trashed this book the whole time, even though I sort of have. I do think it will find an audience that will eat it up. Partly because there's enough of a, like, romantic tension that, you know, that'll keep people hanging on. And some people will just read any vampire story ever for any reason. They don't care. So it's gonna find it's people that like it. I think there will also be people that just like Cole Gibson's style. And maybe because it is YA, maybe younger audiences will not be bothered necessarily by as many of the things that I was, or won't find them as problematic or cliched because they haven't come across it as much, or, you know, maybe they just like that kind of over-the-top thing. I think you do appreciate things like that more when you're younger. So maybe I'm way off the mark on this one, but it's just one of those things that's so kind of out there that you want everyone else to read it so that you can all talk about it and be like, right? So on that note, I would love it for you guys to read it and tell me what you thought so that we can be like, right? That's just what I want to happen. So that is what I thought of Risen by Cole Gibson. I hope that you were entertained by this ridiculousness. I hope that you had an enjoyable lunch or snack if you joined me for that. And I hope you'll join me again for whatever the next video is. That's my thoughts on Risen. Thank you for joining me for this lunch chat. If you would like to see more lunch chats, let me know in the comments, or give this a thumbs up, or share it, or do internet-y things. That's all for now. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, happy reading, even when it's the most ridiculous thing you've ever read. This isn't the most ridiculous thing I've ever read, but it's up there. It's up there. But I still enjoyed it, though.